If you've just joined us, we're talking to Jeffrey Smith. He's a young New Zealand Baha'i. He's 22 years old, and he's been travelling around the world working on his year of service and in various places giving service to the Baha'i faith. When you were in Vanuatu, Jeff, at the school in Vanuatu, were they delivering this junior youth moral empowerment program? And how did that work in Vanuatu?
They were. In Vanuatu it was slightly different, that the school, being Baha'i inspired, was able to incorporate the program directly into its school curriculum. So all of the youth that age, between 12 and 15, I guess it was a total of 50 or 60 at the time, were actually in this program. They also do offer the program in the neighbourhood surrounding the school. So I guess it was the best of both worlds there. You had it in the school but also in the surrounding neighbourhoods. The challenge is finding older youth or adults that can actually facilitate these groups themselves. So there's a real demand for more adults and youth to get involved with this program and help. There's no shortage of youth. All the youth want to participate. They're really excited to, and they all respond wonderfully to it.
So how long were you with these youth in Vanuatu?
I was with them in Vanuatu for just 6 months. So really it just gave me a taste of what it was like to be working with youth. And so that really helped when I went to Jamaica, because I already had a bit of experience and understanding of what it is to work with junior youth.
Do you see the potential and the need for moral empowerment working for children here in New Zealand?
Very much so. I think all over the world, youth and children especially are going through a really challenging time. The world is changing for the worse in a lot of ways. There's a lot more violence, a lot more problems happening around them. Marriages are falling apart, the economy is falling apart. There's just a lot of things to be confused and concerned about. So children and youth need to be given the capacity to sort of deal with these problems as they face them. So in schools in New Zealand, for example, there might be a lot of bullying or a lot of peer pressure to be involved with drugs, alcohol, even to be active sexually before someone is ready. And so the Moral Empowerment Program gives a youth or a child an understanding of what is right and what's wrong, and it gives them the independence to make the decisions for themselves and really walk down the right path in life so that they can be happy and of course contribute to the betterment of society around them.
Jeff, these other core activities, one of them you mentioned was devotional meetings. What are these?
Devotional gatherings are just a meeting where Baha'is and non-Baha'is, anyone from the community, is warmly invited to pray together. Prayer is obviously a very important means of spiritual development, draws us closer to God, but it also draws confirmation, God's help in our efforts. So when members of a community are praying together, this brings unity of thought, unity of heart, and it also gives the spiritual forces to help them in their efforts to build their community.
You were talking about needing more facilitators before. How is that demand for facilitators going to be met?
Cool, you're right, we need more facilitators to run these youth groups and the devotional gatherings and children's classes. There's a sequence of training materials called the Ruhi books that has been developed by the Baha'i world, and these are open to anyone from any religious background, preferably sort of older youth or adults. Anyone would work through these booklets. There's a sequence of 7 booklets, and each book draws off the Baha'i writings and then applies them to specific acts of service. So someone might do Ruhi Book 1, which gives them a sort of a spiritual foundation, connects them with the Word of God, gives them an understanding of the prayer, importance of prayer. Then it talks about life and death, our purpose on this planet, which is to develop spiritually in preparation for our next life in the spiritual worlds of God. But after that, someone might go into Book 3, for example, which is about child education. So someone would go through this, and this would give them the knowledge, the capacity, and also the experience to have their own neighbourhood children's class. So we try to promote these sequence of training materials in communities so that more and more people can get involved with facilitating these activities. And like I said, it's open to anyone from any religious background, so I'd really encourage anyone interested in community building and service to get involved with these training materials.
Is there any one person in the Baha'i faith kind of running these things and saying, you do that and you do this, and is there any clergy in the Baha'i faith?
There isn't any clergy. What you've sort of probably noticed by now is that it's up to us working at the grassroots to do things ourselves. So everyone is equal in the Baha'i faith. There's no one above us, no individual of authority. The Baha'i faith has its own sort of administration, its own government. There are institutions in place that keep the Baha'i faith united and coordinate activities. So like in a local community, Baha'is would vote for 9 individuals to form a council called a local spiritual assembly. And that council, through consultation, administer to the needs of the local community. And above, we have a similar council at a national level, and then the Universal House of Justice is the head governing body of the Baha'i faith, which is 9 elected individuals to serve the needs of the Baha'i world.
So if anyone's going to get up and transform a community, it's going to be you and I.
Exactly, that's right. Left up to individual volition.
If you've just joined us, we're talking to Jeffrey Smith. He's a young Baha'i man, 22 years old, from Northland. Baha'i on Air is actually coming from North Island Summer School. We are broadcasting there with this young gentleman. What are you doing here at Summer School, Jeff?
Well, I've just come straight back from Jamaica. It's my first week back in New Zealand. I was lucky to be here in time for the summer school. It's a North Island event. Once a year, all the Baha'is come together. It's a time for celebration of activities of the past year, a time for study and reflection, and also just arts and a lot of socializing. The activities that I was doing in Jamaica, they're taking place all over the world, including in New Zealand. So a lot of the consultation and study and discussion that's taking place at summer school is really centered about how we can do the Junior Youth Empowerment Program, the children's classes, these different activities even better and more effectively in our neighborhoods here in New Zealand.
Now, you were talking about, is it the Junior Youth Moral Empowerment Program? What specifically are you teaching the junior youth?
The Moral Empowerment Program is all about spiritual and intellectual empowerment. So some of the objectives are to give the participants the ability to express themselves more eloquently and confidently, so that they can talk about the issues that they're facing, or to be able to influence others in a positive way. Also to give them a moral foundation so that they clearly understand what's right and what's wrong and can make decisions based off that. There's also helping them to advance their spiritual perception, which is what that is about, is to be able to understand spiritual forces that are working around them. So I'll give an example of this. One of the study materials that they study, and that the first that they work through, is called Breezes of Confirmation. So this book helps them to understand that when they work towards something positive in life, even whether it's trying to get a good job so that they can support their family, there's spiritual forces coming from God that confirm them in their efforts, that help them along the way. So this is really a source of empowerment. You can imagine that a youth growing up in a community when there isn't much opportunity, people are telling them that they're stupid, they can't do it. If they can trust in the force of God to help them, they're going to be more motivated to do it, and it just gives them strength and the capacity to get ahead in life. They also are doing service projects in their community. The youth themselves would come up with a project that they can do. Some of the activities we did in Yallis in Jamaica was just cleaning a beach. We had ideas to start a garden so that the youth could raise some funds to spend on what they want or to help their community. They also help other children with their classes. So they're doing service projects. That's a great source of empowerment for them. And they also do fun recreational activities, sports, trips, different games and so on.
Did you notice a difference in their behaviour? I mean, how did they cope with those kind of activities?
Definitely, this is a wonderful response. Most of these youth, sadly, are faced by adults telling them that, you know, they're to be seen but not heard. They really can't do anything because they're just a child, or they're too stupid, they're illiterate, you can't, you know, you're too dumb to help in any way. So initially when we start talking about service in the community, the junior youth are kind of hesitant and possibly feeling like they can't do this. But after they start to plan, come up with an idea and then follow it through, they begin to see that they are able to do this and they can positively influence their community. Their parents are also very surprised. Many of the parents comment to me, "Wow, I've seen change in my son or in my daughter." When the youth or the children hear that, it encourages them even more. So it's a wonderful, wonderful transformation.